Now, when you read the transcript of my discussion with Mr. Miller, you'll notice he didn't respond to any of the questions I asked him, because he can't do that, because they discredit evolution. He chickened out of answering them.
This is a commentary on Nephilim Free's email exchange between himself and none other than a very patient and understanding Dr. Kenneth Miller regards genetic recombination hotspots. Just about every single video he's ever made has been so easily debunked as his arguments hit a brick wall at the second or third layer of bullshit. In most cases, it is not the real science that is needed debunking, though of course it does, but just a plain and simple dissection of the creationist claim. I have to admit that I don't have any great knowledge about recombination hotspots, and that Neph probably has read up more on the topic than I have, so I'm not in a position to really counter his arguments, and of course nor would I be in a position to counter Dr. Miller's arguments. The whole exchange is rather lengthy, and you're going to need to make use of the pause button quite a bit. Neph makes great play on the fact that we share 30% DNA with jellyfish, yet we're not 30% like jellyfish, but dismisses the 98.5% DNA commonality between humans and chimpanzees as not relevant because the resulting proteins are far from 98.5% common. And I'm not quite so sure that that's necessarily true. Now that is very dishonest, Neph. What yardstick do you want to use as a measure? DNA or protein? You can't cherry pick the one that suits your argument. He tells Dr. Miller that the fossil record proves a less than 10,000-year-old Earth. For the record, Neph, you know full well that you've been pawned on this so many times before. The fossil record is what nails it because it can only be explained by evolution, while at the same time proving Genesis as an absolute impossibility. Even before radiometric dating provided us with specific dates, geologists had already employed relative dating and reached the inevitable conclusion that the Earth must be at least 15 million years old, and all this before Darwin and his theory. And hell, Neph, Russian scientists have extracted ice cores showing seasonal demarcations representing 150,000 years. Okay, sorry about that. Unlike Dr. Miller, I have digressed from topic, but I just had to put the record straight in view of such a blatant and disgraceful lie. So, about the recombination hotspots. Neph quite rightly points out that these are not in the same locations between us and our closest relations, unlike ERVs. He has a point. It is what would be expected, and it is my understanding that as of yet there is no definitive explanation. But they're working on it. That's what real scientists do, Neph. They do all the work while you are lounging in your armchair, and when they have no explanation to fit the facts, they are honest enough to say, "We do not yet know." You, on the other hand, from your armchair, shout, "Design! Design!" with absolutely no backing up evidence to support a mere assertion. Sorry, Neph, but an "I don't know" does not equate to design. How devious to claim so. Anyhow, if you want to follow up that point, then why don't you and your creationist chums do an experiment? Why not compare the hotspots of a lion's genome with that of a cheetah? After all, they're of the same kind. According to you, the hotspots should occur in the same locations, just as they do across all the human races. But you and your chums won't, will they? Because they never do the actual work themselves. They just sit from distance while real scientists do the work and read a couple of sentences out of context and come up with crap. Something which Dr. Miller pointed out to you in a much more polite manner. If there was anything that supported ID, or creation, then don't you think Dr. Miller, a practicing Christian and creationist from a cosmological point of view, will be shouting from the rooftops? Don't you think the brilliant Francis Collins, another creationist, will be bursting to call on time on evolution? Sorry, while you have actually exhibited the arrogance to challenge a real scientist, you still can't be taken seriously. By the way, Neph arrogantly, and mistakenly, makes a claim that nobody on the planet can beat him in a debate. Oh, really? How about the host of videos where you have entered into a comment exchange and ran with your tail between your legs with the mock bravado comment like, "You're out of your league, pal, see ya" comment? You might just as well sign off with a "My dad's bigger than your dad" comment. Anyhow, kudos to you for actually sticking at it with Dr. Miller, but the stark truth is that he is a scientist, and you are nothing like a scientist. You just don't have the knowledge. You don't have access to the information that he does. You don't get involved in any of the experiments. You're just using the same old creationist tactic of filling any gap of unknowns with that of your imaginary God, without any supporting evidence whatsoever. Oh, and by the way, you can't even get his title right. He is Dr. Miller. He's not Mr. Miller. That's Dr. Miller. And he's a real doctor with real qualifications. Not like, say, Dr. Hovind, or shall we say, Dr. Doolittle. And even if you did stump Dr. Miller, which you didn't, how does any of this prove design? Sheesh, heaven help us, heaven. Oh, and before I go, I know that Claire, Rhyme Maiden 1, has beat me to this, but if you wanted to learn some real geology, then please check out YouTube user Web of Science. Regards informative and accurate videos, here's everything that Nephilim Free isn't.